Wolfpack, what's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with your Week 13 Waiver Wire and FAAB show. We are getting close, ladies and gentlemen, to the fantasy playoffs. 2 more weeks for most of us, and then we'll be in there. And thankfully, there's a lot of intriguing options. My hair's an absolute nightmare tonight. Love it. A lot more intriguing options than my hair on the waiver wire this week, given, unfortunately, a lot of injuries as well. So usually that's how the things go hand in hand. Teams lose a ton of studs, but then it opens up a ton of value for those that either lost the studs or just want to scoop up some good value. So come on in. Let me know, Wolfpack, how I can help you out as we get into this week waiver wire. And let me know, again, what your FAAB situation is, who you're looking to pick up. All in the comments. We'll hit them all after the show. It takes us about 25 minutes or so to get through these names I'll cover, and then we'll ultimately get to all your questions. Let's start it off, Wolfpack. And as you come in, too, that thumbs up button does help us grow so much and is so appreciated. And we're very close, about 90 away right now from hitting that 2K sub goal. So if you're new to the show, whether you're catching the replay or here live with us, and you could consider giving us that sub if you like what you hear, would mean the world. So thanks again for being here, Wolfpack. Let's dive into the content. You first got to check for Alexander Mattison, who is most certainly guaranteed this coming week with Dalvin Cook banged up at least weeks 13 and 14, the early reports from Adam Schefter. And who does he get? For the Detroit Lions in his first matchup. This has been back-to-back times for Alexander Mattison now, and he was an absolute monster last time. I believe the running back, too, in fantasy football, seen 36 touches in both of his starts this year. Not across the starts. In both of them, he touched the ball that many times. Insanity. The usage will be there. The run scheme is obviously very productive. That zone blocking scheme from Gary Kubiak. Love Alexander Mattison. The matchup, third most points. You don't even, he could be at a tough matchup, and the guy would kill it. So at least over these next 2 weeks, you're looking at a locked-in top 12 running back. He, again, only 51% rostered coming into this show right now. I'd spend every single inch of my FAAB that I have left to go get Alexander Mattison. You should as well if he is somehow out there in your leagues. So please go check out there for him. Guys that are out there, though, in more than half of leagues right now getting into this list. And again, as I said at the top, there are some very intriguing names. Unlike the last couple of weeks where it's been like maybe we throw this dart and something hits, there's some really usable value out there. The top down to the top 15. So I highly recommend staying out here with us, Wolfpack. And again, that thumbs up. All right, Jamaal Williams, 41% rostered. Another guy that I would spend just about everything you have at this point. Half if you don't need to use him to maybe block an opponent, but well worth it. When he gets the volume, he's not an exciting talent. He's no one that's going to pop off the page, but when he gets volume, has historically been very productive. Now, all right, is he guaranteed volume? I really think so with Swift. All but a lock to miss this week. That Dan Campbell already came out and said a long stretch for week 13. And what happened when he got knocked out? Even with Jamar Jefferson and Godwin, however you say his name, active on Thursday, when Swift was out, Williams handled 20 of the 21 running back touches behind Swift, outsnapping them 31-9 combined for those two. And then you got a banged up Minnesota defense coming in here that was already allowing over 130 yards on the ground. We know the Lions love peppering Swift and just the running backs in general through the air. It's what the offense is centered around with those Saints influences here. I love Jamaal Williams. Will be a top 20 running back play this week. And well worth it if you need someone for that push. When you look at his volume and when he got it with Aaron Jones out from 2018 to 2020, there was only 6 times he had a game without Aaron Jones in there. He averaged 14.5 PPR fantasy points per game on almost 15 carries on about 5 targets per game, was a dominant workhorse when Aaron Jones was out there. 14.5 PPR points per game would rank in your top 12 this year, would be a RB1, and I would not be shocked at all. Yes, that was the Packers. This is the Lions. Quite a difference in overall quality. But again, the way the Lions use their running backs is so fruitful that I really think Jamaal Williams, well worth your number one FAAB, your number one pickup if you have that saved. And again, Madison's already gone. Well worth blowing the load if you have Swift and you need to fill in, or you just want to block somebody. Now, a guy that would rank even higher than him, but we don't know yet what the situation is Sony Michel. He's 28% rostered, and I still think this one's a little bit riskier to blow all of it on, but I still think he's worth a solid investment given that Henderson is looking pretty sketchy this week. They've already said the quad injury, didn't practice, is pretty banged up according to Sean McVay. And Sony Michel, he hasn't looked anything spectacular by any means. But when he's gotten the volume, I think back to that game, who was it against the Browns maybe? Week 2 or 3, where Henderson got knocked out and Sony had 10 carries and ripped it right down the field for 50 yards. It looked like a beast. So he can get it done as a receiver. He looked explosive throughout the preseason. He just hasn't really been used. I mean, you look at Henderson, the void this would leave, 50 of 62 snaps, 16 of 19 touches last week, 33 routes, 4 targets. All of those would essentially go to Sony Michel, who I believe would become a 70% or higher snap and touch player within one of the most explosive offenses in the league. So definitely someone you want to turn towards if we get any word that Henderson's out. And either way, should be at only 28% rostered, much higher owned, given it is cuffing season. When people go down, these are the most valuable pickups from here on out. And outside of Mattison, I don't think anybody has quite the path that he would to value should Henderson miss time. Guy that we know is going to get volume either way, well, when he's not on bye week at least. And that's what the rub is with some of these guys. So you want to make sure, and I'll touch upon the guys that have buys coming up or right now. And one of those is Dontrell Foreman. And that's why he might be a little bit higher should he not have this buy. Fresh off a 19-carry day, 109 yards. The first Titans runner to get to 100 yards, in addition to Dontrell Hilliard, we'll talk about a little bit later. Pretty solid. Without Adrian Peterson there, was the de facto number 1 back, playing, seeing 55% of the running back rush share, 4.8% target share, compared to Hilliard, who did see 9.5 target share. Again, we'll cover him a little bit later. Just the clear-cut groundwork. It seemed like the Titans finally got their offense, they didn't do much against the Pats, but that's the type of identity they want to establish. He was ripping off a couple big plays, looking decently solid. I think moving forward with a pretty nice schedule down this stretch after the bye coming up. Jags kicking that off in week 14. Foreman should steamroll them. So if you have the patience to wait it out, I would go for him. But potentially even higher than them, especially if this injury news with Miles Sanders turns out to have him ruled out, and especially Jordan Howard's also out too. Boston Scott would then zip up to the number 1 pickup of the week, even ahead of Jamaal Williams. He already has plenty of standalone value, whether Sanders is in or out, given the fact that he's seeing all the valuable touches, got the goal line touches and scored 64 yards, TD, outscored Miles Sanders 14 points to 6.9 for Miles Sanders, who had 64 yards on 9 carries. Near even snap share. Now, there was an ankle injury, but once he got knocked out, we saw Boston Scott out-carry Kenneth Gainwell 15-0. It was not a committee at all. And who's on the docket? The Jets this coming week. So either way, even if Sanders is playing, Boston Scott's going to have some value. Nyheim Hines in the number 2 running back role put up 25 fantasy points against these guys. Boston Scott should have no problem hitting 15+. Definitely a viable stream this week, no matter what. But should Miles Sanders, this ankle injury, linger, he would then go up to the number 1 pickup of the week. So certainly a guy, especially if you can't wait it out on Foreman and you need that immediate usability, if you don't want to wait on Sony Michel and see what he has, you can plug Boston Scott in this week and get some value. So that's what I always like to emphasize is, what does your team need? You need that running back this week. Jamaal Williams, obviously Mattison, number 1 and 2. But Boston Scott would be that next highest usable back right off the waiver wire, someone you certainly should go and look for. Van Jefferson, my top receiver of the week, 49% rostered. In our first real look after the bye week following Robert Woods' ACL tear, there was kind of obviously we had that one game where he tore his ACL on Friday and they just kind of scrambled and put it together. How did this wide receiver core shake out? We got 10 targets going to Odell. Pretty impressive. He hauled in that deep ball with a 26% target share, looking good. Of course, I'd rather have Odell at this point. But Van Jefferson, no slouch with 9 targets, 3rd on the team there, played just as many snaps as Odell, just ran even more routes, actually. Most routes on the team with 41 routes run, and racked up a deep catch, 93 yards, just barely missed 2 touchdowns. Had a studly game. And yeah, it's tricky to some people asking, well, I have Cooper Kupp. Can I start Van Jefferson? I have Odell. What do you do? That does get tricky, but this offense does shoot out quite often, especially given that the defense is crumbling these last few weeks. I do think Van Jefferson, a very viable wide receiver, 3 moving forward. And upside for far more any given week as the field stretcher in this offense. I think he's better served, to be honest, as the number 3 rather than the number 2, because he's seeing just about as many targets as he would anyways, but drawing far weaker competition, running those highly productive deep routes. Love to see it. Number 6 on my list, Matt Breida, 23% rostered. I think he's worth about 25% of your FAAB. He had 8 of Buffalo's first 9 backfield touches. He did have like a tough screenplay and then ultimately was in the doghouse for about 2 quarters. You hate to see that, but what happens when he comes back in? He rips a shifty little touchdown reception, ultimately scored in back-to-back to now back weeks, the most points of the Buffalo backfield here. Matt Breida has clearly the most explosive guy they've got. I've always loved Breida as a player, just a talent that I have always enjoyed watching. Love his speed. Think he is by far the most talented guy here. And with Zach Moss, a healthy scratch, if that continues, and this remains a 2-man show, and certainly Breida, the preferred option there's going to be some value to come out of this. He's had over 12 fantasy points in 2 of the last 3. And again, in 3 straight weeks has led Buffalo in running back fantasy points. Solid. Just at least 50-50 sharing the snaps here with Devin Singletary. New England, tougher matchup, but we just saw 2 guys, including Dontrell Hilliard we'll talk about, go for over 100 yards against this New England team. They're nothing that you have to go and hide from. And a lot of you guys joining right here. I love to see it. Keep getting those questions on in. Let me know whether you have trades, anything. I'll answer anything. I know it's a waiver wire show, but happy to answer any questions you guys have. Ask me anything. Of course, that thumbs up button does continue to help us grow. Wouldn't ask for it all the times I do throughout this show if it didn't actually help. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. Ameer Abdullah is actually ahead of Chuba Hubbard for me, despite the fact we saw Chuba have that workhorse role, as you can see here. Chuba right below him. I'd spend a little bit more to get Abdullah. My guess, and this is kind of like what I said with Ty Johnson last week, I'm not going to go crazy out there to go get either of these guys because I don't think the situation is all that good, even if one is better than the other. Just like Ty Johnson ended up being a distant third. I have no faith that either of these guys separate and ultimately have a ton of value. The reason Chuba was decent, and when I say decent, that's pretty generous, because he had a ton of carries. He saw over 80% of the carries when CMC was out. In fact, so I'm going to kind of keep bouncing back and forth between these. Chuba saw, and this seems like I'd be making a case for him, 13, 24, 16, 12, and 24 carries. And he only ranked as the running back 36, 19, 22, 29, and 19. Literally the highest running back performance we got was 16. Scored 2 touchdowns on all of those carries. A ton of work. He was below fantasy points, below expectation in all but 2 games. And those games when he was above were never by more than a point. Pathetic. He's not efficient. He's not really that good of a player. And he didn't really get a ton of work in the receiving game. And now you have Abdullah come in, and Abdullah ran 37 routes, saw 13 targets since Abdullah has come back in here in week 8. Definitely the preferred passing game option. And at this point, that's probably going to be the more valuable thing. And then you stir in the fact. So Abdullah played 21 snaps compared to 27 snaps compared to 11 for Chuba, 21 routes compared to 4 for Chuba. Just everything as a receiver, snaps on the field. He was the more involved guy when CMC went down. Never mind the fact that they face the Bills, the Bucs, and the Saints in 3 of their next 4. Yes, the Falcons off the bye. That's going to be a nice matchup. Probably Chuba will have a better game there. Chuba's going to be gross. He'll probably get 12 to 15 carries in very tough matchups where he hasn't been efficient anyways in good matchups. I'm not into Chuba Hubbard, Abdullah, if anybody. But ultimately, a gross committee on a Cam Newton-led offense that's just not scoring that many points. To me, this is the one that a lot of people are going to go out and attack because it's a clear cut, big man out the rest of the season, get the backups, right? Go sprint out and get them. I think it's going to be kind of fool's gold, kind of like what we saw with Ty Johnson. That's kind of my avoid backfield. If you need a QB, let's say you got Aaron Rodgers like myself this week and you need a bye week fill-in, or you just need somebody to fill in the rest of your, maybe Russell Wilson, you're on your last, the camel back has been broken. The last straw was drawn against the Washington team, give up the most points to quarterbacks. Russell Wilson did complete and utter shit. So Taysom Hill, is he going to be your savior? Maybe. Sean Payton said, we'll see on our starting QB situation. That's the reason you can't go out and go crazy blowing your load to go get him. But let I remind you, QB3, QB13, QB8, QB11 in his 4 starts last year, averaging over 21.5 PPR. Well, it doesn't really matter PPR for quarterback, but 21.5 points per game. Was the quarterback 6 across his 4 starts. He has that upside. 40 carries in those 4 starts. Konami, love it. Mouth-watering. Yeah, he lost a little weight this offseason. I'm not too worried about that. In fact, he ranks QB 14 right now on my rest of season big board, which ahead of Cam Newton, ahead of Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz. And he would go up even higher should I know he's a locked-in guy rest of season. The matchup is the schedule rest of season. Against the Cowboys isn't like a great spot. They're bottom 7 against QBs in terms of points allowed. But rest of season-wise, the Saints have a cakewalk schedule. So Taysom Hill, definitely viable if you need a Week 13 fill-in. I think he'll give you low-end QB1 numbers at worst. And then if you need a rest of season QB, I think you got to be going all in to get him. 6% rostered. I think he has top 7 QB upside here the rest of the season. Then we move on to my number 2 wide receiver behind Van Jefferson. Far more out there and far more available is Kendrick Bourne. 23% rostered. He is, I couldn't believe this, the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points since week 3. Yeah, top 12 wide receiver. The wide receiver 1 in terms here. And I know I apologize if some of our guys out there are in the chat that asked me about Kendrick Bourne coming into the weekend. I was kind of oblivious to it. So Pats fan, you see him make a couple plays every game. You go, that guy's pretty good. Looked at his final stats, and he's been a decent floor with some big blow-up games mixed in there, including this past week, as we all saw, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns, great in contested catches, becoming a major red zone threat for Mac Jones. Just a good player that was clearly underutilized at his other stops. Belichick loved him. He went out and got him, and he's using him to perfection here. I think the one rub here is they have a bye, and 2 of their remaining 3 games come against Buffalo, who's given up the fewest points to wide receivers. Granted, Tre'Davious White is out right now, and there's no return in sight. So we could get some very usable numbers from Kendrick Bourne. I'm excited to see that. Oh, man, I'm just a fan how that game goes. But I wouldn't be shocked if Mac Jones has a decent day against them, and Kendrick Bourne is a huge part of that. This isn't the Buffalo defense without Tre'Davious White. Not nearly as scary at all. So my number 2 wide receiver, Kendrick Bourne, about 20% of the FAAB I would spend for him. If you need a tight end, and certainly if you lost Darren Waller, I'd blow everything to go get Foster, Moreau. But if you need a tight end in general, I think definitely a 20% plus FAAB type of spend here to get Foster, Moreau. Just as a reminder of what this guy did the last time we had Darren Waller out. Moreau played 100% of the snaps, ran 32 routes on 37 dropbacks, saw 6 targets, which was good for an 18% target share. Ended up hauling in all 6 of them for 60 yards and a touchdown. Was the tight end 2 that week. He's a good athlete. Derek Carr, we know, obviously loves throwing to tight ends. And Foster Moreau, when he just slides into that Darren Waller role, doesn't do a bad impression of that beast. So I love this guy as until week to week for Darren Waller. If you need a fill-in, I'm lucky to have like Dawson Knox in a couple leagues where I have Darren Waller. But if you need that like slide in 1-for-1 replacement, I don't think the drop-off is going to be all that drastic if you go to Foster Moreau from Darren Waller. I know that sounds heinous and crazy given that this was a second-round pick, Darren Waller. He hasn't done a whole lot this year. Foster Moreau on his one opportunity really shined, and I would not be surprised to see that happen again. Dontrell Hilliard, in full PPR leagues, I'd bump this guy up quite a bit, although he did only have 1 catch this last week, 5 years, nothing overly special there. I guess why I'm a little bit lower on him, despite him having the better game of the Tennessee backs, 12 carries, 131 yards, and the TD, was so much of that came on that 68-yard run. And maybe that's the rub with him. I hate fancy analysts that are like, you take out that 68-yard run and he didn't do anything. Like, I get it. You can't do that. He was pretty damn productive on the other side. So, yeah, 5 avoided tackles, reception. You did okay. Just a couple weeks ago, had the highest receiving workload. I think he's more susceptible, though. Like, if McNichols comes back, that might be some cheese nibbling. Foreman's going to get those 15 to 20 carries here on out. No AP. He's done. Soft schedule. I think they're going to feed the running back as much as they can. I don't know how many game flow is on there where the receiving back is really going to be the more valuable piece. And if he is, are we sure McNichols isn't going to take right back over? Hilliard's looked good. He really has. So I'm not totally opposed. He played 32 snaps, 31 for Foreman. Again, as we talked about, a much higher target share, 9.5 compared to 4.8 for Foreman. For whatever reason, he feels a little more fluky. I feel like you're going to get steadier volume from Dr. Foreman moving forward. Sean Jackson, number 3 receiver. There's really not a ton of receivers I loved coming out of this waiver wire. It's gotten a lot more barren, whereas running backs, as we're starting to see the injuries pile up, you're getting more usability as our season continues on here. Sean Jackson, though, 130 yards on just 3 catches. 102, sorry, not 130. 102 and a touchdown, 3 catches. And this was on the 4th most snaps for the Raiders. 27 routes was the fourth fewest routes. So if that role continues to escalate, and why wouldn't you if you're the Raiders? Like, he makes plays every time he's out there. I don't know, the stupid fumble and always at the goal line. He's a little sketchy. But Deshaun Jackson's the best playmaker they have in terms of field stretching right now. Zay Jones look decent too. You get Washington coming up, though. A team, 1, revenge game. Nobody's more spiteful than Deshaun Jackson. 2, getting hemorrhaged by big plays. Somehow, Russell Wilson didn't go deep at all last night, but in general, Washington football team has been abysmal to big plays. Big play artist walks in here, and the rest of the season schedule for the Raiders is looking nice and tasty. At only 5% rostered, I think well worth 10%, maybe more if you need that flex that you can throw in there that nobody's going to be excited to face. Could he get you 1? Yeah, and people will laugh in your face. Could he get you 20 like he did this week? Yeah, that's also very viable. It's what Deshaun Jackson's always been. I love betting on him this week against his former team, Washington here. Always loves the revenge game type of guy. Jauan Jennings, 0% rostered. Here's a creature for you. 7 to 8% FAAB, though, given that he is San Fran's, if you didn't know what team he's on, San Fran's number 3 wide receiver. Now he'll be the number 2 wide receiver because Deebo Samuel will be out for at least a week, maybe even 2. And then you look at the schedule: Seahawks, Bengals, Falcons, Titans, Texans, Rams. All but 2 of those teams are bottom 5 against wide receivers. He caught a touchdown once Deebo Samuel left the game. His lone end zone look, big body. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo clearly loved him and wanted him to go out there and make plays. So if you're desperate at wide receiver, this guy will be out there. You'll probably be, I know I say 7 to 8% FAAB, but he's probably a guy you can get out there for free. And with that schedule, I think you can roll him out pretty much any given way, especially on the Falcons, Titans, Texans. If he continues to play well behind Brandon Ayuk here as the clear number 2, he could have that cemented roll in for that fantasy playoff. Gorgeous, gorgeous schedule. And last, maybe least, Gerald Everett, 27% rostered, worth about 7 to 8% of your FAAB. I'd prefer Foster Moreau at tight end, but should you miss out on him, I think Gerald Everett's not a bad consolation prize here. He was the highlight of the offense since Russell Wilson has come back, which is just about as abysmal of things you can say, leading the team in target share with 21.4%, running about 75% of routes on dropbacks. He's been their most consistent targeted guy, found the end zone, 37 yards, touchdown, 9 targets, and had 5 catches on him. 2 weeks ago, had 8 targets, hauled in all 8. He's somehow become the main guy, and after last week, the one guy Pete Carroll cited wasn't, we need to get DK Metcalf more involved. No, why get this absolute monster more involved? We need to get Gerald Everett more involved. And we saw it. In 9, they get 17 targets across 2 games. That's, for a tight end, pretty impressive. 49ers are okay against the position, but overall, he's become Russell Wilson's main vein in these last 3 weeks since he returned. I can't pretend that that's guaranteed to continue, but it sure could. Just one honorable mention, Sterling Shepard and Devontae Parker. Are they going to return? I have no idea. If I knew they were returning this week, they'd probably rank ahead of Kendrick Bourne as my number 2 and 3 receivers here. Sterling Shepard, I've cited it many, many times, has been a top 19 receiver in all of the 5 last full games he's played dating back to last year. That's the rub. He hasn't played many full games, but monster when he's out there. So he'd be my preferred stash. Devontae Parker, though, that playoff schedule is a cakewalk. Tua is starting to cook. I know how good Waddle's been. Is the Waddle show. We know that. No doubt about it. I was wrong about him on the preseason, by the way. No doubt about that. Was clearly wrong. But Devontae Parker, stud. When he's been out there, he's averaged 80.5 receiving yards per game, 8.5 targets per game. both these guys are very viable plays should they be out there. They're kind of like those like uglyish looking names that might have been dropped with like frustrated owners. I think they're worth scooping up because they could be potential really usable on your stretch runs. Alrighty, Wolfpack. That's all I got for you. That leaves us with our mailbag. Only 25 questions right now. We'll hit as many as we got. So keep them coming on, Wolfpack. As we get to all these questions, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up for me, it would be greatly appreciated. Rico, you always ask me this defensive question. I guess maybe I should look ahead. I would say my number one recommendation right now is the Vikings. They're out there in a ton of leagues. They get Detroit. They get a reeling Big Ben and Steelers offense with a D-line that could definitely do something similar to what Cincy just did. And then you get Chicago. I haven't looked much farther than that, but that's like a defense that's widely available and over these next 3 weeks could be viable for sure. So that's my top matchup. I mean, and again, I've seen Miami still out there in a ton of leagues, 44% roster. They've had 26 last week, like 18 in 3 of their last 4. That would be my number one ad if they're out there somehow. I would pay some good FAAB to go get those guys. And the playoff schedule really isn't bad either for them. So first would be Miami, but also Minnesota Vikings. I haven't studied it too much more than that. I can certainly look deeper for you, Rico, but those were the first 2 that popped to mind. Let me know if you're looking at anybody because you're clearly digging in deeper than I am right now. William G. Drop Sutton for Van or Bourne. I think Sutton's done. Yeah, I think you can definitely toss him out there. And I think Van, as you said, that's part of why I have Sony so high too. That Rams playoff schedule, very tasty. Sutton's done. I mean, he's averaged 4.2 points per game since Jerry Jeudy came back. What's the point of holding on to that? Yeah, he's a tantalizing player and talent, but with Teddy Bridgewater no longer throwing those deep shots, the Sutton argument was the air yards and bombing it to him. That's not happening anymore. So I have no problem cutting Sutton for either of these guys, Van being the preferable option. Will Daniel Jones likely out against Miami? Does that help Saquon? No, probably not. I mean, Glennon did that one game Glennon had. I remember Booker got force fed. So maybe, I guess it can't be that. Like, I don't know if it's a downgrade or an upgrade. Just kind of Giants suck. And Mike Glennon, is it going to be okay? I don't know. I am going to say, I know the matchups look okay against Miami, given how bad they were early season. These last few weeks, that defense has been a completely different monster. They're limiting tons of QBs. Lamar Jackson and co. All these offenses getting completely stifled by Miami these last few weeks. So I'd be hesitant to trust anyone really outside of Saquon in this matchup. Saquon's still the usage monster. You got to have him in there. Ben, what up? Find me a league-winning running back tonight. Well, I mean, obviously, if Mattison's out there, obvious, and you didn't need me to spell that one out for you. Jamaal Williams, I do think, has some real good upside. Sony Michel out there in a ton of leagues, and the playoff schedule is so ripe for Sony, where we have a banged-up Darrell Henderson right now. I'd also be turning to Dontrell Foreman, though. A lot of touches. And Matt Breida as well. And Boston Scott, too. Second easiest playoff schedule for running backs is the Eagles. And if Sanders' injury lingers, Boston Scott just never gets the respect. So there's 5 names. Let me know who's out there for you, Ben, and who you're going after. Seamus, I rock. Says the guy that's already got 2 1 seeds somehow locked up in his leagues. Absolute legend, Seamus. You're the man. Best fantasy player in the world. Hubbard worth number Chuba? Nah. As I said, I'm pretty meh on him, Will. I think Ameer Abdullah is going to muddy that up, and even if you get the carry share that he was getting before, 3 of the toughest 4 defenses you can possibly face in these last 4 weeks, no thank you. You already have pretty good running backs here. I would prioritize any of those other names I just threw out there for Ben over Chuba. Ty Johnson and Jeff Wilson for Breida and Scott. Oh, yeah. Yep, both. I would drop Ty Johnson first, Jeff Wilson second, and I would rank them Scott and then Breida is how I would do that. Jamaal or Chuba needs to win next weeks to possibly make playoffs. Jamaal, if you're saying, like, which one do you need? So Chuba's got the bye. Atlanta off the bye is not a bad matchup, but I think Jamaal, without the clear-cut locked-in guy, at least this week, maybe even next week too, when he gets volume, he's always been a beast. So I'm definitely going Jamaal, Bopox. Because it's droppable, let's wait on this injury, right? If he's not hurt seriously, then no, we just got two touchdowns, right? So he's got some real juice there. Oh, man, I completely missed the super chat from Joshua Wate. Thank you so much, man. It came in while I was doing the show. Usually it pops up and alerts us when I have the comments open. You're a legend, man. Very generous of you to share with us like that. Giving Tuesday. Put some respect on the Wolves' name. That you're providing quality content consistently. Keep the great work. Looking forward to the hate drops out of the playoffs. Man, I haven't recorded one in a while, Josh. I should have today for Tony Jones because the hate coursing through my veins as I dropped that complete and utter bag of shit was venomous. There was so much. It was literally the first thing I thought when I waked up in the morning. I get to cut Tony Jones like a kid on Christmas. Yay, I get to cut this absolute bag of trash from my team. Oh, I can't stand that motherfucker. So, yeah, that was a good hate cut. I kind of gave you a rendition of what was going through my mind as I hate cut it. That was a big hate cut. Certainly, there will probably be some more heading in there. But, Josh, thank you so much for supporting us. Really, really appreciate it. These are the type of things that really do go such a long way in helping this dream become a reality. And maybe someday this thing is full-time. And I can't wait for that day. So, Josh, thank you so much on Giving Tuesday, man. Certainly more worthy causes than RSJ, but I certainly appreciate it. No doubt about it. Wolf, what's up, Heat Powder? Please rank these three rest of the season. Julio, Parker, Bourne off waivers. I'd probably go Bourne, Parker, Julio in that order. And Joshua goes the same exact order as I did. So there you go. Two Wolves agree in there. Awesome stuff. And thanks again, Joshua, for the super chat. Those of you that might not be paying, but if you want to just support the site in a free, easy way, got 30 in here. That thumbs up button does really, truly help us get out to more people. So keep pumping it up, especially after the fact. That thumbs up button, if you're here live, it shoots this out to more people, and it is so appreciated as we try to hunt and get to that 2K number, baby. What up, Giuseppe? At first, you're in first, need that bye. Let's keep it rolling, Giuseppe. Absolutely. Baltimore D versus Pitt or Miami versus the Giants? I go Miami all day there. Mike Glennon likely starting. Awful. The way the Miami defense is rolling, oh, yeah. It's definitely Miami for me. And I like Baltimore against Pitt too, but it's Miami. Nothing to do with Abdullah. I feel like the game was so, maybe. I don't want nothing to do with either of those guys, to be honest, Tunes. I know I had him like 7 and 8 or wherever I had him. Because if one does emerge, it is a running back. It's a starting running back. So you have to give it some consideration. But to me, there's 6, 7 other running backs I'd rather have than either guy. I think if somebody did emerge, to me, it'd be Abdullah at this point because we've already seen what Chuba is, and his top game was running back 16. Most of them were outside the top 20, even though he was seeing 15-plus carries. Grindhouse top Van Jefferson must start. Yeah, the matchups are looking solid. There's very few matchups where I look at him like, I wouldn't really want him in my lap. He'll be ranked inside my top 35 or so each and every week, higher in some weeks for sure. He's a beast, great deep threat, and I think he's better off as the number 3. Because he's getting the same routes, same targets he would as the number 2, but now he's facing even lesser coverage. So, yeah, I love him. Rested for it. Trying to get Taysom Hill, but if I don't, should I go Tua or Heineke? I think Hill's definitely number 1. Of course, until Thursday rolls around and it's announced that he's not starting. But, so Taysom Hill be number 1. If not him, I'd probably go Tua. Giants, they played Hurts well this last week, but I don't buy that defense. And Tua has been cooking. So, indeed. Got another super chat. Thank you so much, Troy Cohen. Troy, awesome. Thank you. Just tossing out a super chat just to support the site. So appreciated, man. And you're always here. So that support already just means the world. So great to see you. Thanks again. Not even a question attached to it. And you still support the site. So I really appreciate it. And then another one comes right in. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. No question, just support. Thanks for all the info every week. Thank you so much for supporting and just always being here. Skate Town 254. You're the man. You guys are being very generous tonight, and it's very, very much appreciated. I love doing it. I love being here. I love talking to you guys. Certainly doesn't hurt, though, to get some of this extra fuel in there because I want to pay the people that help me out. I want to keep this thing full time. So these are the type of things that help us give people, little holiday bonuses and things of that nature. So it's really appreciated, guys. Thanks so much. Indeed. Let me get back. I know Grind Don't Stop had some great questions. Ty Johnson, definitely droppable. What was the creature named? Austin Walter that scored the touchdown and outsnapped him? No, thank you. Have an early start. Sit Pitts or Logan Thomas. ATL versus Tampa Bay. Washington football team versus I have a really hard time trusting Pitts. I mean, he didn't do it against the Jags. When's it going to happen? Now, granted, we just saw Jack Doyle go bananas against Tampa Bay. So here we go. Let's go back to Pitts. We only saw 5 targets go Logan Thomas's way, which isn't bad for a first game back. I'd probably still go Pitts here. But admittedly, it's begrudgingly. Top defense to stream for week 13. I don't know off the top of my head, Grind, but as I said, I've seen Miami out there in over half of leagues. If they're there, number one, I'll be doing my rankings tonight in the show, of course, tomorrow. So I can give you a much better answer tomorrow, Grind Don't Stop. I just know that Miami's out there in a lot of leagues. The leagues where I've seen them out there, I'm sprinting towards them. Great match against the Giants and Mike Glennon, and they've been just super hot lately. I don't think the Bengals are a bad play either, though. That defense is sneaky really good. Knox or Logan Thomas for Willie G. I don't even know the matchups, and I'm going Knox. He's top 4 rest of season tight end for me. That guy is a red zone monster. I know the Pats, good defense, and especially good against tight ends, but I don't care. They're gonna feed that guy every time. He's becoming every snap player. So involved in the red zone. Definitely Knox for me. Tony gets more usage. I mean, Glennon did pepper him last time out, so I could see that Grind Don't Stop. When he had that 180-yard game, 189-yard game, Glennon was the responsible for the vast majority of that damage. So could it happen? Sure. Is it a guarantee? Not at all. It's one game sample, but it can't be worse, right? That's kind of how I feel about this one, assuming he plays, right? Devontae Parker worth the stash on IR? Yeah, definitely worth the IR stash if you have that spot opened up. No doubt about it. I mean, Mattison is the far easy, clear-cut, easy top running back handcuff rest of the season. If not him, I do, like Sony Michel at the top of the show, I think is right up there. I'm trying to think of like other backfields. I mean, Gerald Williams, I guess you can't really come as a handcuff, but that's really what he's become. I've seen him getting dropped, so he could be intriguing. I'm trying to think if there's like any, who's out there in a lot of leagues like that I wouldn't be shocked if an injury happened is Ronald Jones. 9% rostered right now. If Fournette goes down, he's not as viable as a receiver as Fournette, but Ronald Jones getting 15 to 20 carries on a very soft rushing playoff schedule, that could be pretty intriguing. I would think he's probably towards that top of the handcuff list. I think, Khalil Herbert, we saw him have some monster games with David Montgomery. Devontae Booker, of course, with Saquon Barkley always getting banged up. He was a volume machine. And then Jeff Wilson with that playoff schedule. I got to toss him out there. We see Eli Mitchell might be one of the toughest running backs in the NFL. He's in my top 5 running backs rest of the season, top 10 overall. I have no problem with it. But if he went down, Wilson would be the one to feast on that playoff schedule we keep talking about. So he'd be intriguing. The last one I'd toss out there is Samaje Perine as well, given how great Mixon's been. The time Mixon's been out, Perine's kind of been that focal point, and they have a decent schedule as well. So bunch of names there for you. I mean, dare we even toss out what's his name? Like Kene Nwango? I wish I could say it better. I apologize. Whoever is the guy behind Mattison at this point, given that we have at least 2 weeks of Cook being out, could be the guy. Trade Knox to the Waller owner for Mattison. There you go. I mean, I love Knox, Denny Jennings, but yeah, if you need a running back, this is an absolute steal. Oh yeah, you already have Knox. I mean, Kelsey. Steal. Absolutely steal. I was trying to pull that move a week ago, and it didn't go through. Would you consider starting D. Jackson over Judy? I know the Washington matchup is pretty ripe. I don't know who Judy has off the top of my head, but probably, I mean, Judy's so good, so it's so frustrating. But at the end of the day, when it's Teddy Bridgewater not sustaining anybody, they're facing the Chiefs. That's a pretty good second. I'd probably play Judy. They're going to need to throw this week, so that's what I'm feeling. Still, DK, do I bench him for him or Mike Williams or Tony with the new coordinator? I don't know, Troy. That's a tough one. I mean, yeah, as you point out here, 3 straight weeks for DK less than 5 points. No, Russell Wilson has not made that difference. It's sad. It's tough. I think you might have to bench him at this point. I think you might have to. It is sad with Sutton. With the extension, you think he'd be getting peppered, right? This guy's our future. Let's get him involved each and every week. But no. And he's so damn good. It really just comes down to the quarterback there with Judy, with Sutton, with all these weapons are great. I really hope Aaron Rodgers ends up there. That team would be nuts with him, fantasy-wise at least. AFC-wise, I don't want that for my Pats, but real-life-wise, fantasy-wise would be real fun. Few receivers you would start. Come on, man. You know the ranking show is tomorrow. Come on back tomorrow, brother. I know you'll be here. I don't know. It's really tough to know where he's going to slide in. And I want to know who you have that you want to consider. The fact that Desean Jackson is a viable option ahead of him tells you really everything you need to know. Stashed Sony a week ago, putting in bids for Ben below the load to go get Mattison. 100%. Like that is by far your number one priority here. ML, Wolf, tough spot. Need to start one of these in PPR. Galladay, Curtis Samuel, Reynolds, Crowder. Ooh, that is tough. How would I rank these guys? I mean, Galladay depends on who's in and who's out. Is Shepard playing? Is Tony playing? If both are out, Galladay's the best option. If not, then it would probably go Crowder, Reynolds, Galladay, Samuel. I can't trust Samuel after last week, so that's tough. I mean, is Bourne out there? Is obviously Van Jefferson probably not out there if you're asking these guys. Jauan Jennings, I'd have above these guys. He's out there in every league. So I'd be hitting the waiver wire hard for you here, ML. I'd be looking to get there. Waller owner fighting for the number 1 seed, but little does he know if I face him in the playoff, really could. Although if Dawson Knox is rolling out there and then Dalvin Cook is back and Mattison is useless, that could be a little slap around to you too. So we'll see. Jennings. Top D is available as Arizona, Philly, Tampa. I don't feel great about Buffalo against New England. I'm there. I kind of like. I don't know who they're all facing. Grind again tomorrow's show. Arizona though all year has been really solid on defense, so I'm leaning that way. Banish the basement for the next 2 weeks because I may have. Oh no, Tunes. Sorry to hear that, brother. Speedy recovery to you. Hopefully, quick recovery indeed. Oh man, but yeah, that sucks. No fun, indeed. But I guess you'll be here tuning in live, so hopefully we can provide you a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of respite from that. Indeed. Oh yeah, we just got that one for you. And thanks again, Troy. I really appreciate the super chat. All you guys supporting the site. Very generous today. Drop Bateman for Bourne. Well, that's really close. Rest of the season, big board. I have them literally neck and neck. As a talent, I still love Bateman. I still want to believe that he's going to get peppered. The one thing with Bourne that sucks is bye week 2 against the toughest pass defense in the league. To me, I feel like Bateman's going to come into more usability than Bourne. As good as Bourne's been. Wide receiver 12 since week 3. Streaming 2 or Hill. I'm going Hill. 909. Don't do it. Don't take my guy from me. Not again. Come on Thursday and let me know if you're streaming Hill, assuming he's starting, because that's going to be ideally my guy too. And I might have to drop him if you are as well. First year doing FAAB League. How much you typically try to save for playoffs? If you're safe, I don't need to buy any wins. I spend pretty early and often. I feel like a lot of the Eli Mitchells, the Cordarrelle Patterson, those are the guys I want to go and get early in the season that end up being season-long difference makers. If I'm in this middle pocket and there's nobody I truly need, I do hang on for a guy like Mattison. Mattison, I wouldn't be saving a penny though. If you have Mattison out there, and I think you said you do, Ben, get rid of it all. Mattison is worth every last dime right now. There's no one that's going to be more valuable than what he's going to give you these next 2 weeks. And certainly you don't want to be facing him either. So, that he's the type of guy that you shouldn't have any pennies, moving forward. What's up, Marmon? Welcome in. Always good seeing you. Who would you drop first, Jeff or Daryl? I'd drop Jeff. I mean, he's useless as long as Eli's healthy. So they're both handcuffs. Give me the one that is, even when Eli Mitch time, Jeff kind of looked like crap. So I'd keep Daryl there. Who's a better chance of making playoffs, Saints or Panthers? Neither. Saints, if anybody, because Taysom, I think, could help, cruise a couple wins out of there with a run-heavy attack. But I think the Panthers are completely crumbling, especially with no McCaffrey grind. They're done. Ty as a stream, he is the Texans killer. Even this year, his first game back, he had a touchdown against him. So yeah, absolutely, Ben. Definitely a viable stream. I think that's a good one to bring up. Should have been on my list probably as a week 13 stream. Definitely a good name to bring up. Need a tight end: Foster, Moreau, Logan Thomas, Higbee, or Everett. I'm going Moreau as a 1 week stream. Thomas as like a season long guy, but give me Moreau this week. Tunes. Giuseppe. Jacoby or Van? I would probably lean Van this week. Go for that big play. Should I drop Daryl for Sony with Henderson nursing an injury? Yeah, I think so. Because Daryl, we saw in Clyde's first game back, even though it was his own first game back, 70% of the touches went to Clyde. So we know Daryl is no more than a handcuff. So I'll go for the handcuff, and that could be actually usable this week. Is he a 1 week filler, Giuseppe? Depends on how long Swift is out. Once Swift's back, I don't think there's going to be much value, but as long as Swift is out, I think you got Jamaal Williams as a top 15 running back play. Willie G. Is Logan Thomas worth dropping if I have Knox? Yes. I think to load up at other positions, I don't know that you need Logan Thomas. You got Knox starting the rest of the year. Wolfpack, that's all we got. Thank you guys so much. Again, super chats, $2 $10 super chats coming in here. Great support. So appreciated you guys helping out the site like that. And on your way out, if you haven't already, that thumbs up button, a nice, free, easy way to help us out as well. You can find all the content at roastrejournal.com. My rings will be up tomorrow. We'll have our show to break them down at 7 p.m. like we always do on Wednesdays. And then, of course, on Thursday, you know me and the truth will be lined back up together. One of my favorite times of the week is that pregame show. You guys always show out, and it's always a great time. So a couple of good shows left here. Again, thanks so much for being here. You can find me at RotoStreetWolf on Twitter for all my little musings. And, of course, all our other content at roastrejournal.com. And the World Full of Fancy Sheep, guys. Be that wolf. Later.